Hey, what's up guys? I'm Ben with Rough Country, and today we've got a new product we'd like to share for you. We have a new kit that fits the 90 through 95 model Toyota 4Runners. You can see here our 3-inch suspension kit includes strut spacers, new coil springs, and new rear shocks. Let's take a look at how easy this installation is. First step, we've got to remove the cotter pins on our rod ends and ball joints on the control arm. Once those are out, we can start loosening up the tie rod end. We'll knock that loose from the knuckle, move up to our upper control arm, and then we're going to remove brake line brackets to give some slack to get that strut out of there in just a few minutes. Once those brackets are off, we'll go ahead and loosen our upper ball joint, leaving that nut just a little loose. And a few taps on the control arm dislodges the taper, and we can remove the upper arm from the knuckle. Before we can get our strut out, we've got to loosen our sway bar link to let that control arm drop a little further. Once that's gone, we can remove the strut. First, we remove the lower bolt. Then we have 3 fasteners on the top that we'll have to loosen and take off. And once those are out, we can pull out the lower bolt. And the strut comes right out of there. Okay, now that we have our strut out, we're going to go in and install the studs into our strut spacer or extension. You'll tap that stud through, and then we're going to run a fastener on with a 3/8 impact to pull those studs into the spacer so that they're locked in. Once we've got those tightened down, we'll remove the fasteners and we're going to install the spacer on top of the strut. Once that's applied, of course, we'll tighten down the fasteners onto the strut itself. Next, we reinstall the strut and the spacer. We'll put a few fasteners on the top, hand tight. Then we'll put in our lower bolt on the control arm. Now we can tighten down our upper fasteners. Then we'll move to the lower. We'll zip it down with the impact wrench. Now before we can get the upper ball joint in, we'll put a little pressure on the lower control arm with a jack. And with the pry bar, we'll pull the control arm down so that we can get the ball joint up to the taper section. Once that's there, we'll tighten that down and reinstall our cotter pin. With our upper ball joint in, we can go ahead and tighten down our sway bar link and reinstall our brake line brackets onto the knuckles. Last but not least, on the front, we will reconnect our tie rod in. Once that's tightened and cotter pin is in, we're going to move to the back. First step, we're going to remove the sway bar link or loosen it. Next, we'll go to the rear differential and we're going to loosen these brake line brackets just to make sure we're not damaging anything when we go to full droop. Now that our brake lines are loose and we've got plenty of room, we're going to remove our rear shock. And that upper mount can be tough to get to. You have to reach over and around the frame. The lower mount's very simple, straightforward, just basically a bolt, and then you'll pull off that lower. Next is our frame side track bar mount bolt. We're going to loosen that bolt, and then we'll use the impact on the other side, and we're going to back out the bolt and let that track bar drop. This is going to give us the room we need to get in our coil spring. With the track bar out, we've got plenty of droop there. We can remove the factory springs, no problem. Now it's time to install our 3-inch lifted coil spring. You can see we've got the factory bump stop back in, and we'll set the coil and turn it till it locks in. Once the coil spring is seated, we'll go ahead and install Rough Country's 3-inch extended shocks for this lift kit. Now that the coil springs and the shocks are installed, we can reinstall our track bar. It may take a little encouragement for the bolt to get through, and we'll tighten down that bolt. And next we're going to put a little freedom in this brake line that comes down to the rear axle. Once that's pulled down and the slack is there, we'll go back to our differential. We'll tighten down all of our brake line brackets. And lastly, we will reattach our sway bar link. Now we'll take a moment and just put on the Rough Country decals. And here she is with Rough Country's 3-inch suspension lift added. A fresh breath of air to this 1995 model Toyota 4Runner. To find out how you can get one of these kits for your 4Runner, visit us at roughcountry.com to find a dealer near you. For Rough Country Suspensions, I'm Ben. We'll see you later.